Well, hello again. Jersey Drost, cartoonist and teaching artist. The links are above me to the things that I do. You can find actually on jdros.com. If you go to rss.jdros.com is the links to everything I do. It's the feed of everything I do. But if you just go to jdros.com, that tells you everything you need to know about me in terms of like what books do I do, what kind of teaching work do I do, and whether or not I'm available for hire. What am I doing today? So last night, I had my 1 hour of personal drawing time for the week, and I dashed off this drawing of a barbarian horse, penciled in Clip Studio paint very loosely, and then printed onto watercolor paper and inked with brush pens like these fellas here. So now I'm going to try to watercolor paint it. Continuing on with my exploration of comparing digital and analog watercolors. I'll just dive in and get started. And I'm going to go ahead and wet the area that I want to work. Oh, you know what I didn't do? I didn't pull up an image of the colors on this horse. I have an early drawing of this horse, and I want to get it real quick so I can match the colors correctly. Oh my goodness, I should have done this before I started. Let's see. It'll only take me a second. While we look at the nice picture of the horse. All right, there's what I'm looking for, and boom. Oh, for the love of corn. All right. I'll just continue while it loads. Oh. Have to download it from OneDrive. Okay. And I can. Like I said, I should have had this done ahead of time. Now I can turn off my OneDrive. Okay. Is that really? Oh, yeah. Fur is here. I don't know how much I've talked about. This is a character design I've been working on for a while now. And I know I talked about this on my Patreon when I was working on this project a while back. And all I knew was that I had... Oh, thank you, Rachel. I'm glad it looks okay. You know, I was working off some reference images of horses running, and I was trying to amp up the energy of the run, because like all I could find was like horses trotting, and I'm like, but I want it to be like intensely, you know, like she's charging. She's a barbarian. And I think I got a little bit more oomph out of it, but I need more practice. And that's another reason I'm doing this, is just to get some practice drawing this character. I think in the lead into our Discord, I had been talking a little bit about this idea of like some advice Tony Cliff gave me of like always draw your characters interacting with people or other characters. It tells you more about who they are. Now this doesn't do that, but I am trying to do some little drawings to try to give myself a... Oh, there's blue in there. I forgot the blue. Give myself a sense of who this character is and how she moves. And I imagine her is either being dull and listless, like when she's not fighting, she's just like Eeyore, just sort of like hunched over and just like whatever. But when she's moving, she is terrifying. Well, I'm glad that the attitude is coming through. Cool. Sort of like, you know, like there's this idea of like tigers, like they or any kind of like prey cat. They're like coiled and they're like all just snapped to attention until they strike, and then when they move, they move like lightning. I kind of want to like what I imagine for this character is something similar, except she's like Daria until she attacks. So she goes from resting state of whatever, I'm not into this, to oh my gosh, she's coming at me like a train. Oh, thank you for asking, Rachel. No, I'm using Restream to simulcast, and it takes all the comments and puts them in one place for me. So whether you're commenting on YouTube or Twitch, or even Picardo, which I'm streaming on as well, it all gets put in the same place for me to look at. So no worries there. But thank you for thinking about that. That is very kind of you. I only have 2 screens. I only have 2 screens. Oh my gosh. Now is that? Oh, got to do her ears. Another thing about this character's design is I'm very fortunate in that I work with young people, because I will often run my in-process character designs past them and get their feedback on things. And one of the things that one of my students told me in the first draft of this character design is I think she just had like purple hair or something. And one of the kids said, no, it should be two-toned. She should have like a bright color and a dark color in her hair. Never thought of that. Why not? Why can't a barbarian horse dye her hair? Or, I mean, why can't a barbarian horse have multicolored hair anyway? She's a barbarian horse. Anyway. Let's do that. Let's put in bright blue. My watercolor crayons. Which fades to a purple. So the story I was telling just a second ago, or I was starting to tell, was a real breakthrough moment for me. I wouldn't say breakthrough. It was a moment of switch flip for me about this character design. It was when I was talking with my buddy Zach Giolongo, who is like way more conversant with fantasy design, Lord of the Rings type of fantasy than I am. I think I have an eye for fantasy that is more inspired by the sort of sci-fi fantasy fusion stories of my childhood. And I was working on a lot of different iterations of this character, and all I knew was that I wanted her to have some kind of a mask akin to General Kale's in Willow, because I love that character design. It's too bad the character was so flat and so bland. Well, he wasn't bland. He was vibrant, but you really didn't learn anything about him other than the fact that he's just mad all the time. So I knew I wanted to do something like that, like with a skull sort of motif, some kind of scary mask. And I was working on all these different metallic helmets, and Zach was looking at him with me, and he's like, "Well, if she's a barbarian, think leather, horns, bone." Rachel, I love the annotation that you have in your brain. It's like they have a major domo in there who whispers in your ear like an important fact about that person when you hear their name. But when he said, think leather and bone, I was like, oh my gosh, that's exactly it. She should have like not the top of the skull, but a jawbone covering her lower jaw. And it has like a trap jaw kind of vibe to it. Also, and I was having this conversation with my little 11-year-old mentee the other day. We were talking about Zootopia, and she said something along the lines of like, "Well, wait a second. You never see anybody eating a hamburger in Zootopia." I'm like, "That's right. Can you imagine what that'd be like?" And she's like, wait a second, wait a second. If it's a world of all animals, and if you show them eating meat, doesn't that make them a cannibal?" I'm like, "Ha!" Oh, did I say Zach Giolongo rhymes with Tombo? That's funny. That's a very comic booky way to create a mnemonic. I don't know if there's an art supply that my name rhymes with, because I get asked a lot about how to pronounce my last name when I do events. How do you say your last name? Droid? Is it Jersey Droid? Nope, it's Drozd, and I always say it rhymes with hosed. So anyway, I really dig the lower jawbone business on her, and I like how it covers her mouth, gives her more of like sort of that. Well, I don't want to say too much about her character because I'm still like working on like the backstory for her, but I like how it implies like silence, right? She's got it strapped over her mouth. She's muzzled, right? So you have more of that confined kind of thing, like where she's like bound, but like man, when she comes at you. Oh, thanks, Rachel. Yeah, and like she's wearing a mask that is nothing but like showing the ferocity and the anger, right? Like she has no other emotions. That's what she's telegraphing anyway. That's the idea. Um, and then like like some kind of like war paint on her face, like some like what like a Celtic warrior or something, or Scottish warrior. What do you do about those bandages on the legs? Well, let's do the fur on her hooves first. Yeah, there's the design all came together pretty well considering what I want to do with her. I'm really happy with it. I'm trying to simplify it a little bit. Like in the first design that I did, which I posted on my Patreon, she had like some like sort of weapons business going on in her legs. Because the other question I wanted to answer, and this is the kind of stuff that gets me excited about making comics, is like whenever I can solve these really interesting creative storytelling problems, like how would a barbarian horse fight, right? Because one of the rules that I've made for myself in my talking animal stories is I don't want them to ever do the hands thing, right? Like again, like Zootopia. I don't want them to be the anthropomorphized animals that like can actually do things people do. They should be able to. My I get excited about trying to find a way to have them do people things, but just as an animal. So I'm more Narnia than I am Zootopia, and so I got to thinking about like, okay, well, maybe she would instead of she can't use her hooves to wield weapons. So what if the weapons were just strapped on her back and she runs in such a way that these bones and clubs whack you, right? So a little bit more demolition derby style fighting, which will be tough to show in a comic. But that's another thing I get excited about is that kind of like that challenge of it. But yes, cake, and because you can make vegan cake, right? Yeah, it was funny having this conversation with my mentee because like this is a question I've thought about with my animal books is like, yeah, essentially if you have meat, you are really dealing in cannibalism. So that's also another thing I like about this character's design is that she's also telegraphing more than you think or than you might think because she's got skulls on her body. She's got a jawbone of an animal on her face. She's wearing a fur, right? Okay. already this character is telegraphing a whole lot of fierceness that doesn't normally appear in my stories. So it's nothing I like about her. So, yeah, and speaking of Zootopia, I'm pretty sure we never see a fish or a bird in that movie, right? Am I out of my mind? Because I was trying to pay attention to like how they were working out like the whole. Like it's all mammals, right? I was wondering what the reasoning was behind that. That's kind of cool. This is I think I'm liking this choice to like dye the leg fur or leg hair. I'm not crazy about the way I drew it. I think the hair could. I need practice at drawing like these big hairy horses. But I like this design choice. I'm happy with it. Mix. I broke out an old palette. I think I need more room to mix some paints for a painting this size. It's a little bit bigger than what I was doing before. Another lesson I learned from this one is try not to work so tiny and with so many different elements. Let's try to simplify. There we go. All right, let's get this going. A bit more gray, please. Oh, you got a little porcelain palette. For what kind of paints? Are you gonna do like acrylic? You do watercolor? What you doing, Rachel? Dark. I actually have a little porcelain. It's like a, and maybe this is what yours is like. It's like a circle with like what 6 or 7 little indentations around the periphery, and then a little flat spot in the middle. I haven't used it yet, and I think one of the reasons why is that I really like this like mixing all across a flat surface idea, and like being able to just grab from over here and mix it into over there. Though I don't want anybody to misunderstand me as saying like that's what I'm saying like you should do, because that's just the way I learned it in my watercolor class, and I liked it, and I probably would benefit from trying out some other techniques. Oh, cool. Yeah. Yeah, I've had this little paint set, what, 3 years now? And like I haven't changed it. I mean, that's the yellow I put in there 3 years ago. It's just like, I mean, and granted, part of it is I don't do a ton of painting, especially lately. But yes, they last forever. And I have all these other paints that I want to try out. Why don't you, Jersey? Well, I might. All right, what do I want to do next? Let's see. I want to get some of that blue-gray shadow on her. More blue in here. Little tiny bit of purple. Little tiny bit. Oh no, don't get in her eye. Here's the sort of the flower shape that doesn't have the mixing spot in the middle. Yeah. I just read your comment about falling down the rabbit hole in an Etsy shop where they make custom. Yep. Yep. There are a few things in my life where I do not trust myself. Where I know that the devil on my shoulder will get full control. And one of those things is art supplies. And I think this is a common affliction amongst creative people. But yes, my wife will often say something along the lines of like, well, you know, it's like we now live not far from a Dick Blick store. And when I lived in Ann Arbor, we did not have any art stores you could just like go across town to. Like the 2 years after we moved there, the last art store they had closed. So I had resigned myself to just doing all of my art supply purchasing online, which is fine, but not as fun. But yeah, Anne will say occasionally, like, well, sheepishly, you want to go to Dick Blick? I'm like, you don't even have to ask. Just tell me we're going to Dick Blick and I'm going. Do you need anything though? No. I mean, granted, I haven't done it in the last year because of where we are in the world, but embroidery floss, collecting colors is addictive. Yeah, I bet. And isn't it so satisfying just to see them lined up, right? Like I've got a couple different watercolor sets, and just like doing that, right, is like, it feels great. No, that's exactly right, Rachel. Is that like you actually using the tool. But it's been tough this last year, right? Because like A, it's not entirely safe to go out and do that, and B, I don't think they let you do the testing in the store as much right now, for obvious reasons and understandable reasons. So that's another reason to be excited about getting vaccinated eventually. So I can go. That'll be one of the first order of the day for me will be to go draw in public with friends, like calling all artists. Let's all go to a park or to a pub and draw. Second order of the day, going to art store, playing with art supplies, and spending an ungodly amount of money. Let's see if I can mix the bone color. Actually, I think I can. Oh, dirty birdie. Put a big swab of black right in the middle of my yellow on my palette. Because I'm using black gouache. That was the only black I had handy. Because like I said, right on the other side of that wall is a whole mess of watercolor supplies. All right, move my palettes. Let's get that yellow in here and see if I can get a nice pale yellow. Maybe. Oh yeah, Kino Kanu. I always trip on the pronunciation of that name. Man, that makes me feel like such a dope. Kinokuniya. That place, let me tell you, oh my goodness. Those who don't know, it's an art supply store and stationery and other, personal organizational tools. There's one in New York City. I think there's one in Chicago. I think. And yes, that is a place where I can spend hours. And I got some of the coolest things I've ever gotten from my organizational supplies. Like for instance, my bag in a bag, which I've shown on a Lead into Art episode about everyday carry, has gotten there. But any art supply store is a gift if you have a physical one to go to. Going back 20 years, show my age again. When I lived in Phoenix, Arizona, I found a drafting supply store, a store the size of like a Utrecht or a Dick Blick, and it was all just drafting supplies. And I was in heaven. And they even had transparent sheets for printing your own Ben-Day dot patterns on. And they worked with laser jets or back then bubble jets, ink jets. So there exists in the world a couple issues of Ninja High School that have a backup story drawn by me about one of the main characters' sisters named Hitomi. And one chapter of the story has mechanical tones actually applied like the old way with razor blades and, cutting it out and sticking it on the page. And come to think of it, I really should dig those out and maybe put them up in a frame behind me. That'd be cool to have some of that art out. Because even though the art is like 20 years old and my skill level is apparent, it still looks cool to see the tones on the page that way. There we go. That's looking better. Yes, but the sad part of that story is the art supply store closed like just before we moved away from Arizona, and they had a closing sale, and I went and I grabbed as much as I could of everything. And I think up until very recently, I still had some of those sheets of that you could print mechanical tones on, but I don't anymore. Pat Catan's Ohio craft store chain that was purchased by Michaels. Oh, that's a drag. That is a drag. I did find a cool independent shop in Toledo a few years back. It was just before I moved to Ohio. Um, Small place, but man, it just again, I can't be understated how powerful it is to be able to like look at the materials and hold it in your hand, right? I've got to figure out what my light source color is going to be. You know what it's going to be? It's going to be what I always do, Pinky. Because I am what I am. I got a bunch of black in this brush and it's bumming me out. I should have brought a cup of water. Michaels and Hobby Lobby are fine, right? At least there's something, because I know that a lot of towns that's all you got. But it's not the same. Art supply store. And I remember when I was a kid, the first time I found an art supply store, like a proper one. Um, and I mean, I know that many of you who tune into my stuff know that I grew up in a very rural town, or a very rural town where art was not a super celebrated activity. Um, and so I moved to a slightly bigger town, which wasn't much bigger. I mean, it was like, 30,000 was the population when the students were in town, right? Um, but the campus had an art supply store, which was it was okay. But for me, never having seen one, it was just like it was a revelation. Like, what? There's a place where I can go just to buy all the stuff I need to make comics. They didn't have Bristol. They didn't have Strathmore Bristol. I remember asking. They had this stuff called Mohawk Poseidon. Was the stuff that they? It was like a crude approximation of Bristol. It was cardstock. It was fine. But I remember I had to buy it in giant sheets and cut it down to do my comics. All right, what am I doing here? Oh, green. I choose you, green. And you, yellow. Saturate this thing. Come to think of it, now that I'm actually like dwelling on this, I never realized how many of like my like formative experiences were discovering that I wasn't as weird as I thought I was. I guess that's a pretty human thing, right? Is to like find connection in the world and realize that like you're not alone and all that stuff. How are we doing on time? 36 minutes in. A lot of paint got in this brush. What am I doing on water? Uh-oh. Oh, no. No, I got tons. I just refilled this thing before I started. Damn, I need a bigger wash brush if I'm going to be doing drawings this big. So I don't know if you saw it, Rachel, but today's Lean into Art is all about how I make my day planner. It's a mini workshop episode. I'm making a time tracker. And so you get to see, and I know you know that the pink is for personal. I go into all that and actually go through step by step how I make my time tracker every day, or every week rather, and then use it to track my work every day. Without showing my actual one because there's stuff in there that's not for public consumption. I spent a little time talking about multi-pens, although they are not, obviously not a required tool. All right, I think that's fine. Background is fine. Leave it be. Don't monkey with it too much, Jersey. Do the grass while I'm doing big swaths of stuff, and I want to do a bluish green for that. I am always tempted to just completely ape the. Is it? Oh, I'm blanking on his name. Is it Earl Krasden who did the color palettes for the Filmation Masters of the Universe show, where it's always like that bright green sky, and then the Eternian Palace is like that weird salmon / pink / purple. Always wanting to go to that. And I have to keep talking myself out of it. Like, okay, you've got other ideas. You can figure out something else just for variety's sake. Oh, what size multi-pen were you looking at, Rachel? Because the ones that I use, I love talking about multi-pen. Are 0.5s. This is a 0.5. Yeah, because I was using a slightly thicker pen. What is this? This was the Pilot G207. I was using a series of pens like this to do my annotations and markups in my time tracker, and it's too chunky. It was too chunky a line. So I think they have 0.5s, and there's what brand is this? Actually, I have two now. Rachel, help me before I multi-pen again. The Uni Style Fit is what I have. The Uni Style Fit. Can I get that on camera? But yeah, the refills, I think are 0.5. And they just pop out like that when you're done with them, and then you can put in a new one by slapping it in the little, what's it? There we go. Oh, the thickness of the barrel. Yeah. Well, I don't know. What is the thickness of this? How does it stack up to? It is a bit chunkier in terms of, like, compared to holding a traditional pen. So, yeah, there is that. I guess it's about the size of a Sharpie, right? It is a little thick. Not as thick as some multi-pens I've gotten at, like, souvenir stores and stuff. Those ones that are not refillable that you can buy. Like, I had one that was, you know this, it was that scented one that I got from Cento. And that was a real monster to hold in your hand. It was really hard to write notes with it. Great if you're a kid, you just want to doodle with a pen that smells. Yeah, I should have broken out some bigger brushes for this one. Whoop, whoop, whoop. Here's a good way to get all the color out of this brush. Just keep squeezing, getting the water out. Crayola multi-pens called Ombre that have 3 color coordinated shades of the same color in them. What are you talking about? I have not heard about this at all. That sounds pretty darn great. I'm gonna have to look those up. All right. Where I'm going to get to back to the horse in a minute. I'm going to do these rocks real quick. More red, please. There we go. Rilla has a line called "Take Note," and this all the stuff seems great. I will look that I will look into that. That sounds like a lot of fun to use. Anything to help make annotating, note taking, minutes capturing more pleasant sounds good to me. And thank you for bringing that to my attention now, Rachel, because I actually have a professional development session with teachers on Monday where, and by the way, that means I'm not going to be able to do the live stream on Monday, but part of the objective is to talk and explore about like sketchnoting and like ways to visually capture information, represent information. And I think it would be really cool if I had some options to present with the teachers with, like, here's playful ways you can do it. All right, a little bit of dust kicked up by the horse, and I'm back to work on our Barbarian horse. Yeah, I could have used a bigger brush for this one. Noted for next time. Now, let's see. The fur on her back is a dark reddish purple. Mixed. That was easy. Colors are already in my palette. Mm. Another brush for this. Oh, am I already at 10 minutes too? Dad, blast it. I wanted to finish this in an hour. now I'm feeling sad. Well, let's see how far we can get. Be too opaque. I can just use my scratch paper over here. There we go. Enough my brush. What's it doing? What's it doing? Ah! A little bit of... Careful. You're starting to overwork it, Jersey. I know. Yeah. See what I did there? Look at that business. That's unfortunate, the way it's all like washed out on the edges like that. Let's see if I can work it to the edge. All right. Oh, I can go a few minutes over to finish this, right? Getting quiet now because I'm like trying to race the clock here. Part of the flavor of the live streams is watching me try to make a deadline, a self-imposed deadline. Why would you do that, Jersey? Why don't you be kind to yourself? Well, I'm not exactly like, it's not like there's like a Titanic voice in my head saying you failed. It's more like, can you do it? We'll go out for ice cream no matter what. Get it all out. most of the purple out. Okay. Now for little green. A little bit. A little bit on those bones too. Okay. Did I do the tail yet? Go. Use these crayons to do a quick little bit of shorthand. Or shorthand? Is that short? No, it's not shorthand. I'm just speeding things up a touch. Oh, I don't. Don't have any brown crayons on me, so I'm going to have to use brown paint. Up too opaque. You think somebody's going to want this as a tattoo? You really think so? Well, I just hope that you are right about that, Rachel, because man, oh man, do I want this character to connect with an audience. I want people to really care about who this is. This, I mean, if I get to do this, this is probably one of the most personal things I've ever done. Like in terms of like, in what's a barbarian horse got to do with personal stuff? Jersey, come on, what are you doing? I mean, in terms of it's pulling from a lot of my most personal beliefs. It's something I really believe in, not just as a project, but also just like philosophically. It represents a lot of my thinking over the last decade. And so I really, really hope I get to do it. And I really hope it lands. I feel like Boulder and Fleet was very much an early draft of some of my most personal thoughts in terms of like making it for children and like really like not telling somebody how to live their life, but really like proposing a way of thinking about living. Um, this one is even more of a refined version of that idea. So if people connect with this character, that will be a huge win for me. Because I'll tell you, and I could say this because at the end, not many people stick around for the whole video. So now I get personal. As I think about this thing and think about how much it means to me, I am so afraid of how it's going to meet the world. I'm so frightened, Rachel. I joke all the time about how every project is like, oh, this is the time when I finally find out I'm a fraud. What if I do something and I know it's good, but the world does not care, right? And if that happens, I've been there before, right? I've done a lot of projects that have been very meaningful to me that like never found like a gigantic and responsive and you know an audience that is such that I don't have to look for side hustles or side gigs. So it's not like I'd be unfamiliar territory. I think I'd be fine. But just this feels like such an articulation of how I think that I'm feeling a little extra nervous about it. So thank you. Your responses make me feel a little bit more buoyed. That's a very, very well said, Rachel. I'm thinking about that a lot. If I get to do the book, it'll be a joyful experience no matter what. And that's not nothing. Oh, I forgot one of the little spikes on her clubs there. Get to that at the end after I get all this black out of here. Am I really almost done? And I'm 4 minutes over. Oh, hey, thank you, King TTH Kingth. Do I have any just Jersey art books with my art in them? Not particular stories, just art. Oh gosh, that's a really good question. I have a collection of drawings I did one Inktober. Like it was like stuff that I did for Inktober 2015. But I don't. First of all, Rachel, that is incredibly flattering for you to say. I don't know if anybody's ever asked me for that before. And if you don't mind, I'm going to carry that around in my heart all week and into next week. But no, I don't. I mean, I've never made one. I can honestly say that at least in recent times, it never occurred to me. I can't say if it's never ever occurred to me. Because I don't know. I'm sure I thought about it at one point or another, but man, that's an interesting idea. Maybe all these watercolor experiments that I do can turn into something like that. That'd be neat. So as I'm coming up, working traditionally is so much harder with this stuff. You know, it is, but it's also I'm finding it to be a lot of fun. Yes, digital gives me a lot of opportunities to change things and make adjustments. And I am going to do a digital version of this too, just to compare what I can pull off. See how I do. But I tell you, this is a real blast to do. I'm really enjoying working with traditional watercolors, and I didn't think I would. And I've chronicled this on my microcast on my Patreon. Did a little essay on my favorite tool, and I said, right now my favorite tool is watercolor, and I am surprised to say that. Let me also say, since we're coming up on the end of this, normally I would be here on Monday doing the same thing. I live stream Mondays and Thursdays at 10 a.m. Eastern, 9 a.m. Central, 7 a.m. Pacific. But I won't be I won't be here Monday. Monday I have another sort of a contracted thing I got to do that I get to do. Whoa, hey, what are you doing there? So I won't be here Monday, but I'll be here next Thursday doing this again. So if you haven't subscribed or followed my Twitch or my YouTube, do so now. You get alerted when it's happening. If you are watching on those platforms, please consider liking this video. That helps more people find it. I won't lie to you. I'm trying to build an audience around the art that I'm doing so that I can, you know, hopefully create more things that entertain and please you so that you will buy them. I have books that you can buy at jdros.com. Does it look done? Looking pretty done. I think it needs a little bit more contrast back there, but I got to wrap this up. That makes me so happy. All right. I mean, it's what I could do in a little over an hour. And that's not too shabby. I'm pretty happy. Okay. So, once again, I'll be back a week from today at this time. Please consider following. Please consider hitting like. Please tell your friends. And I'll be back with another live stream. Until then, I've been Jersey Dros, jdros.com, rss.jdros.com, so you can find everything I do. Thanks for hanging out with me. Thanks for the kind words. Okay, bye.